This Week in Startups is brought to you by Squarespace. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Use offer code TWIST to get 10% off your first purchase. And Uber. Read all about the ways Uber is moving forward by going to uber.com/movingforward.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Startups. I'm Jason Calacanis, your host, half in virtual reality, half in the amazing reality that is our news roundtable. I'm taking this goddamn... What is this thing called?
It's an Oculus Go.
It's an Oculus Go.
That's the Go.
Yeah, which means it's not plugged in.
Right. You just go.
You just go.
Just
it is what
want.
you say.
Not into traffic, but...
Not, yeah. Hopefully. It depends.
Well,
if you're on the birds...
reality
Yeah.
in traffic is fine, right? You can walk
It's
in
my
traffic.
favorite app for it.
Yeah.
Just
Is it really?
Walk in traffic.
Walk in traffic?
You should design virtual walk into traffic. That's an experience you could never have in reality.
And 15 seconds in, I've lost control of the show, which is by design. It's going to be Freaky Friday. I've got with me none other than Lon Harris, my long-term collaborator, Mahalo inside This Week in Startups and many other projects. I think he's probably been on the show more than anybody. Or up there.
I was on every week for a while.
Yeah,
so,
you're a newsreader.
Yeah,
the news.
that's gotta throw
You
it
get a
off.
special jacket if you've been on.
This is it.
Oh,
This
wow.
is
That's it.
the
There it is.
jacket.
I picked that up at Goodwill this morning. Your Goodwill jacket will come in 5 more
I
appearances.
can't wait.
It's like
Also with us,
$14 on Amazon.
the hilarious author, speaker, comedian, and general troublemaker here in Silicon Valley, who is here to offend you. If you are a snowflake, be prepared because
Suck it up, liberals.
suck it up.
You're here to trigger the libs? Is that
Trigger
Triggering
the
the
libs.
libs.
Oh, I didn't know I was on the Trigger the
Owning
Libs
the
episode.
libs.
So that's why you're here. Lots
to
we
be
brought
triggered.
You're a token lib
All
to be
right.
triggered.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's get right to it. Sarah Cooper's here as well. And she's got her new book coming out. Always like to give a plug to my fellow authors. And her new book, I have the proof on my desk. I'm going to hold it up. How to Be Successful Without Hurting Men's Feelings. And it's dedicated to me.
It is dedicated to you.
Thank you
It
for
is
that.
fiction.
It is. The best part about this is the last page of the book, it actually comes with, people can see here, actual authentic mustaches that women can wear.
Yes.
To be taken seriously.
Finally.
Finally. You figured out the solution.
Exactly. You just pop that on and people don't question you when you say anything.
What I love about your books is they have like a lot of cartoons and artwork and charts and pictures, illustrations, all stuff. Do you do the illustrations yourself or you work with somebody?
Yeah, so I take pictures and I trace them. That's my little hack of how I do my illustrations. So I brought in actors and I had them pretend to be in all these situations and then trace them.
What's your favorite situation in here? Because I see a lot of negotiatings, like here's threatening and non-threatening promotion.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. It's,
yeah.
Instead of asking for a promotion yourself, you get your male coworker to ask on your behalf.
Right.
And then you get promoted.
So you get a little lobbying going on.
Yes, lobbying
Smart
going
move.
on.
It's a
Yeah.
smart move. Lon's been trying to do that with Austin here. But hey, Lon, also, so people know his current title, he is the editor-in-chief of Inside.com, which now has 30 newsletters.
Yeah.
Over 500,000 subscribers.
On each one?
No,
That would be...
that would be.
Come on. Slow down. Slow down.
But
Yeah.
wow, it's working.
It seems to be working, and every time we grow it, the new newsletter finds its niche. It finds its audience. Like we haven't really expanded yet, and then we're like, oh, there's not interest in this topic. Like every topic we expanded to.
Unbelievable. Which
sort of
one is
develops
your
a following.
personal favorite right now of the Inside collection?
I mean, I was writing Inside Streaming myself
Yeah.
for a long time, and so I feel like that one's sort of my baby
It's
that
so
I've been
great.
working at.
Yeah.
But the Oculus Go I bought because I was reading our AR VR newsletter every time it came out, and I was like, all right, I want to try.
Yeah, only $200 or $300.
It's $200.
Unbelievable.
Well, that's now it's at the price where it's like, all right, I'll
Yeah.
take a look and check it out and
Yeah.
see if it's for me. When it's like $1,000, it's like, nah.
Well, let's start with that as a story, and then we'll get
Sure.
into scooters and these sonic boom attacks in China and Cuba that everybody's wondering what is going on.
I'm really freaked out about those. I feel like other people are not as freaked out.
But
as
you're
I
not
am.
an important person, so you shouldn't be
But we don't know,
worried
'cause
about
we
people
know-
attacking you.
I'm not worried about people attacking me specifically ever. It's more like they could put a speaker on a building and then
All right,
like,
well,
we don't know what we don't know how it works.
In the spirit of me losing control of the show, let's just get to it. Sonic
Yeah.
attacks.
Yeah.
These crazy sonic attacks in China and Cuba are confounding. U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China have been affected by mystery illness, symptoms similar to a concussion or traumatic brain injury. they may have been the targets of attacks involving strange sounds.
Right. So this happened a few months ago in Cuba, where diplomats and their families were reporting like strange feelings, like pressure in their heads, and it's making them sick. And we can't figure it out. And then it started happening in China, and now it's happening in Cuba again. And we have no, like, it's terrifying to me because we have no idea. Like, nobody in America is even working on this technology or has a clue about what this could be. Like, wouldn't you think any technology from another country, if you brought it here, someone in America would be like, oh, I've worked on
of course.
a project kind of like that. I sort of get what that's all about, even if they've never developed that specific thing. But the idea that there could be a technology that we have, it's like Star Trek technology just dropped into the world, is really scary to me. It's like, maybe they have blasters. We don't know.
Okay, Sarah, I can see you're queuing it up.
Sonic weapons, right?
Yeah.
And they've used them to disperse crowds.
Right.
So we all know sort of how the technology works. But the thing is, how are they not affecting a lot of people? Like, these are apartment buildings that these diplomats live in. How aren't there other people being affected by it? Why is it just this diplomat? They say the sound is like marbles falling on the ground, which kind of sounds like my upstairs neighbors. So I'm a little worried about that. But
they're clearly targeting the Mission District now.
I know. But that's the thing that's scary, is that
like
nobody knows
Sunset.
what they are. But the thing is, like, to create some like effect like that, you'd have to have giant speakers.
It seems like it.
So
exactly.
how could anybody go unnoticed if they were creating these attacks?
This is crazy. I think we're going to have to consult Cora on this, because Cora will definitely have the answer. Somebody on Cora will know.
So if they don't, they will pretend to.
Exactly. We'll vote it up. So putting aside the what, let's assume for a second that this is an actual technology that exists.
Right, because it could be psychosomatic, or it happened once and then other people think it's happening to them.
Sure, it could be like, or there could be some other explanation for it other than a person did it purposely. Like, maybe there's something wrong with
they're using
HVAC.
Equipment, or it's a chemical thing, and we think it's
it's
sonic.
brain damage, it's ringing in the ears, it's insomnia.
Maybe it could be something in the water, let's say. Like, there could be like some mineral in the water.
Or just listening
mercury.
to Trump too much. Like, that could give me this
Trump disorder.
Yeah, Trump
This
disorder.
could just be undiagnosed Trump.
Undiagnosed Trump disorder?
Trump triggered
it's
disorder.
Like marbles falling in your brain.
Make this presidency stop.
Sometimes when he just starts riffing, it is a little bit.
Actually, you know who's suffering from this is Rachel Maddow, is suffering from Trump marble disorder. Because I don't know if you watch her show, but like every night she's exasperated from the beginning.
Yeah.
She's like, I had a whole show, I planned it out, I had to research it, but
it
turned out Van der Swan is...
There's a look that she and Jake Tapper sometimes get in their eye, this like exasperated.
But I like it. I don't like the anchors who get on like, well, this is what's happening, isn't it?
The world we live in.
It's just the way it is. Like, not true. Actually, this is crazy.
No, it's bad.
That's like when Wolf Blitzer announced Trump won that night. I was like, he seems so calm and so collected.
Honestly, that is the best replica of Wolf Blitzer they've ever made.
Yes.
That particular clone.
Yes, I agree.
that they've been using for the last 2 years is perfect.
I agree. It looks like he knows he's on
definitely
television.
They've cloned him because he's on TV
you guys are
every
watching
time.
Westwood, right? Westworld, right?
No, don't tell me anything.
Okay.
I have a new theory, which is for the shows I like, I wait till the last 2 episodes, penultimate, then I binge.
For the season or for the whole show?
So like if the Americans are going to do season whatever.
Well, they're done.
I know. I just watched it.
Oh, okay.
But I waited. I see all this stuff going on Twitter. I block on Twitter the keyword "the Americans."
Oh my God.
It's a whole system.
Whole
But then
system.
you don't get news about Americans.
Yeah.
I don't care about Americans. Okay.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah, but it was so good.
It was really good.
What did you think of the ending?
Loved it.
I loved it. We'll talk after a burger.
Yeah.
So, but who would be doing the sonic attacks? That's the question.
That's the question.
Because let's assume it is an attack.
Right. On diplomats. So why are you trying to just get rid of
To what
diplomats?
end?
Right.
Just get rid of them if you want to get rid of
a
them.
conventional explanation doesn't make sense. Like, these diplomats are in these countries. It's not like they want to just kick them out. They could kick them out at any time if they wanted to get rid of them.
If the government wanted to.
Yeah.
But is there somebody else? So here's my
Millennials,
theory.
I think.
It's the millennials.
Yeah.
For
Millennials
sure.
are killing our eardrums.
Yes, they are.
Retail, Best Buy wasn't enough for them.
They're killing me during job interviews. Like, I don't know if you've had to interview a millennial, but they're just kind of like, can I have Fridays off and work from home on Tuesday through Thursday? I'm
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Seems reasonable.
I mean, I'd
Here
like
we
to
go.
do that.
I think, thinking this through, it's the Russians.
Well,
And here's my 2 theories of why. One, it's always the Russians anyway. They got their hands in everything.
Right.
So if you just say the Russians, you're correct more than 50% of the time. It's a good betting strategy. But second, if they wanted to create more chaos, which is what they're into, just creating chaos, this would be a great way to create chaos. Oh, the Americans are going crazy.
Yeah.
They're literally losing their minds.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, like Cuba, China, like countries.
Countries where they could have access.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because, they're really interested in driving wedges between us and our allies, but they could get this equipment into, like, Cuba. That's
Just to freak us out?
Just to, yeah. I mean, that's the theory.
Wow.
Experts
It
suspect.
is. It's freaking me out.
Yeah,
Don't
well,
freak that
good job,
guy out.
Putin. You freaked Lon out.
He's
Yeah.
aiming for me.
Absolutely. But then again, as we talked about in the show opening, we're triggering libs.
Yeah.
Triggering
the
libs.
libs.
We know the
Or one
we know
lib
the
in
episode.
particular.
Mass hysteria, maybe. Who knows?
Well, if you watch Hypernormalization, that BBC doc, we've talked about that, right? That Adam Curtis documentary.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hypernormalization.
So that's his theory in that is that's all that all of this is really about. It's not about specific, like Putin wants X to happen, and so he's going to put all of his energy behind making X happen. It's Putin doesn't want you to know what he wants. He wants you to be completely confused and to not think you can trust anything that's in the news. And so he's going to put a million confusing things out there so that you throw your hands up and give up.
I
I
gotta
watched the
go.
first
This is
50.
awful. This is terrible. Because that's actually happening. You
yeah.
don't know what's important. You don't know what's real.
Right.
I mean, it's really
And it goes
Scary.
back. What's fascinating about this documentary is that they tie it all in. That's a KGB maneuver. Like, that's how they used to do to the Soviet Union population
Yeah.
to keep them confused so they wouldn't overthrow the government or rise up.
That's what Trump is doing too, though. All
Right.
the news about him is so overwhelming. I think 70% of Americans now feel that there's too much news. There's just too much news. They can't keep track of everything. And so then they just decide not to keep track of everything.
Well,
All right.
in the movie, they point out, just before we get off this topic, so Putin would actually, and this is, I don't know if this is true, it's in the documentary, he would organize protests both for and against his new policy. So he would come out with a new policy, and he would organize an anti-Putin protest and a Putin and Putin support on the same day, so that people wouldn't have any idea what was really
Well, we
going
know
on.
Trump would never do that.
Well,
So
but
at
like,
least.
but it is like, yes, Trump probably wouldn't do that, but it is sort of like that change, like say something one day and then
Yeah.
very forcefully change his mind and say the exact
Right.
opposite thing 2 days later. So
Right.
you're like, well, what does he even really want or think about this?
What's
I
the
don't
goal
know.
here?
Right.
It is a technique I use in poker sometimes, which is I'm like, you should call or fold. I mean, either one is a good choice.
Right.
And
So-
you just sort of get inside somebody's head. I'm
Right.
looking for a call. No, you know what? I'm going to stop talking now. I think I'm going to appear strong. All right. Can we get 4 Xanax, please? 2 for me, 1 for each of my
Please.
guests
Yeah,
on
please.
This Week in Triggered. Let me take a moment to thank our actual sponsor today, Squarespace. I love Squarespace. We use it for everything. LaunchFestivalSydney.com. Go take a look. The Launch Angel Summit, the Launch Incubator. We use it all the time because it lets you create a highly functional and beautiful website instantly. You can showcase your work, you can blog, publish content, but you can also sell all kinds of products and services and promote your physical or online business. You can announce upcoming events or special projects, and these beautiful templates are all created by world-class designers. I know that because I know Anthony from Squarespace, and that was always his thing, is to start with a beautiful website because people judge a book by their covers. By the way, it's all got all this powerful e-commerce functionality now. You can sell anything online. It's super customizable. Everybody in our company knows how to edit the website because it's so easy to use, and it's mobile first, right? So everything you use is going to work on mobile as well as on your desktop. Many times you get on a website, looks great on your desktop, terrible when you look on your phone. And it's a new way to buy domains. You have over 200 extensions. You can see what did we do? We did founder.university and we did angel.university. So that's one of those new extensions, .university. They have great analytics, search engine optimization, and 24/7 award-winning customer support. So here is your call to action. I know you've been waiting, Lon, for this amazing call to action. He's been sitting there on his mobile phone.
What can I do?
What can you
I
do? Well,
go?
here's what you do.
Tell
You're going to
me.
use that offer code TWIST, Sarah, and you're going to save 10% off your first purchase. I know you don't need it. I know you got that big 17 book deal with HarperCollins, but go ahead and use the TWIST code to save 10% off your first purchase, just so we get credit. Make it yourself and make it stand out. That's what Squarespace is for. Thank you to Squarespace for being one of our longest running supporters here on This Week in Startups. Okay, we might as well go from the sonic attack right to the other big confounding global issue, which is scooters. Because this has become our national
Nightmare.
I literally, quite literally, I was walking up 6th Street here in San Francisco, which is dangerous enough, right? It's dangerous enough. You know the Tenderloin, you know the area I'm talking about here in San Francisco. and literally 3 yuppies are flying towards me across the crosswalk. None of them know how to operate a scooter. None of them should be on a scooter. They're adults. And they don't know. There's so many people in the crosswalk that all 3 in unison jump off their scooters. One of them just totally takes a dive. He just flops everywhere. The other 2, it was like, it was the worst display of dexterity I have seen ever in my life.
Well, tech nerds don't have any coordination.
Coordination, right.
It's a bad combination.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're being punked. Is this an Ashton Kutcher?
It's the Russians, I think.
Well, because it's not only the people riding them, but then they're just discarded. They're all over the place. If you create a company, there should be some sort of...
They didn't think it through.
There should be some sort of... You can't create a company that ruins a whole city. Like, if you do that, there should be a punishment or something. I don't know how this is allowed. Like, well, we created this company and it just involves, like, people leaving a ton of garbage everywhere.
If they're standing up and they're like in a proper receptacle or location, it feels fine to me.
Sure. Okay. But they're not.
I think that was audio of the warning that you get.
What? Oh, play that warning. I got to hear that. The warning is what?
It's threatening to call the police.
It says, unlock me to ride me or I'll call the police.
Is that a joke? Did somebody hack it?
No. This is a designed feature of this thing that it's trying to protect itself. And so it yells out, please unlock me or I will call the police. It's threatening people. It's threatening people.
Wait a second.
It's like we built Daleks from Doctor Who and then we're just like, take over our downtown areas. Just go threaten people.
Is it doing that as a growth hack? Like it's funny?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
I think it's like, I will have you arrested.
Although there's no proof that it actually calls the police. It can't run after you.
So if you pick it up.
That's definitely not Let's Design the version that
In related news, Google is not going to use its AI for weapons. There's like a story like the 12th story down today.
Just scooters to follow you around.
But this, in a city like San Francisco, the counter argument is we're stepping over human excrement. People are like literally shooting up in the street. And people are being stabbed. Like, should we be freaked out about this, Sarah? In
the grand scheme of things?
In the grand, I'm evoking the grand scheme.
Yes, we should.
We should be out of
It's
it.
right up there with homelessness. It's right up there with all of the other crises that we're experiencing. Is it crises or crisis?
Crises?
Crises.
Yeah, a single crisis, multiple crises.
See, that's another crisis.
It's another.
How do you say multiple crises?
Crises.
Well, what's the solution here then? Should these things be outlawed? Because it seems to me, this is the conundrum I have. These things are too damn fast for the streets, sidewalks.
Scooters are too damn fast.
They're too damn fast.
That's your new slogan.
Slow
down on the sidewalk.
Slow down on the sidewalk. But it's too damn
snappers.
fast. The rent is too damn high, and this is too damn fast. It's too fast on the sidewalk. Nobody's walking at a 5-minute mile.
You don't want to see one coming at you.
No.
I saw a guy on one with his child, with his 4-year-old speeding along.
Really? Yeah, that's... So...
But there's also
but they're not good in the streets because you'll die.
Right.
Right.
So too fast for the sidewalk, too slow, and dangerous for the street. So where do these belong?
But is it helping transportation somehow? Is it getting people faster from point A to point B?
Cheaper.
It's cheaper? Okay.
Well, it's not polluting would be if you were going to do that or a car, better to take the battery-powered scooter.
Right.
Like I get it on that level.
So where should they go, though? Let's talk about this one fundamental thing, because they say, is the rule you're supposed to be in the street on these, or you can be on the sidewalk?
I
don't know the
I don't know
rule.
the answer.
Does it tell you what the rule is? Like, stay on the... what do they advise you to
Use
do?
the sidewalk or you will be arrested.
Yeah.
Why did they have why did they have the Omnicorp from RoboCop design them? That's the real question.
You're currently in the street. Self-destruction in 7 seconds.
Why does Ed
Like
209
handcuffs come out and just arrest you and take you to the police station.
Here we go. You're
robot jail.
Yeah.
We've determined from your galvanic skin response that you're going to run the red light, taking you to police station.
Yes.
The
It's like Minority Report.
The
Yeah.
pre-cops.
This is actually putting me on the side of scooters, because if we put those features in, then we could actually get rid of some people.
Self-destruct, get rid of those hipsters.
Yeah.
Why do people love these scooters and not the Segway? Because to me, they look very similar. It seems
They're
like it'd be a
smaller,
very
they're
similar
lighter,
experience.
they're easier to kind of pick up and move around.
We've
I
all
think.
been on one of these in our childhood.
A motorized
You know where this
Not
came
motorized,
from, though?
but we've all had one. We've all
Right.
been on a Razor scooter or seen a Razor scooter zipping around.
At Google New York, we had scooters to get from one side of the building to the other, and that was the bike thing. And Google, the Mountain View campus, it's the same thing. It's just kind of spreading, and so I think that's kind of where the idea came from, is that you could. But why don't they have receptacles? Why don't they have receptacles like City Bike?
It does exactly. Like we already have bike share kind of programs that like bikes aren't all around
Right.
Santa Monica, like,
Right.
and you can't move down the sidewalk. So why
So
don't
it
they have
seems like
that?
a failure of government, because government must have made City Bike say, okay, you have to have a receptacle. So
Right.
why didn't they do the same thing with the scooters? Why didn't they say, hey, this can't
The
just
scooters
be
just dropped them. This is a Silicon Valley beg for forgiveness, don't ask for permission.
Just do it, yeah.
Strategy. So that's what happened here. They just did it. Then retroactively, they've had to get permits, and they've permitted like a very small number of these on the streets. But here is your actual legal advice. No. Are they legal to ride on sidewalks? According to Curbed, no. Like bicycles, they're not permitted on sidewalks according to Transit Code section, as we all know, 7.2.13. Alas, this does not stop bike riders from abusing this leniency of this law. Sidewalks are for pedestrians only. A motorized scooter, which I guess these are, may be operated on a bicycle path, trail, or bikeway, but not on a sidewalk. On the roadway, it must be operated in the bicycle lane, if there is one. On roads without bicycle lanes, motorized scooters may operate where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour or less, and shall be ridden as close to the right-hand curb as possible so that you get clipped and die. A horrible
But so
death.
if a cop sees you riding one of these on the sidewalk, they could give you like a ticket for doing that?
I guess theoretically, yes, which you
There's
get in
no
Santa
way
Monica.
that's going to happen.
Well, because also usually that would work off like they would the scooter would have to have some sort of number or license, but then the company would get fined.
I
not
like
you.
the
So they're
bikes.
definitely not going to do that.
I like the one I like was the jump bikes that was bought by Uber.
Right, I remember
because those, I had them on the show. You have to lock them up to something. So it's just like any other bike locked to a parking meter or something. It's not like disturbing anybody. There's not that many of them. You don't just lay them on the ground. So I don't understand why these birdie scooters don't have a lock on them that you can lock them to a bike rack. Mm-hmm. That would make it much more sense than
It
just
seems like
lay
a
them.
duh. It seems
Because no,
very
they
obvious.
want to yell at you.
Yeah, they want to yell at you.
They don't wanna
So
be
now
locked
black
up, they
people
just-
have to worry about white people calling cops on them. Now inanimate objects are calling the cops on
Calling the
them.
cops on them.
Everyone's just calling the cops on them.
Yeah. Like a white guy comes running, and picks like two up, puts them in their car. It's like, oh, okay. Did you have permission? Yes. Okay, that's fine. You can take them. Anybody else? It's like,
Yeah.
No.
prepare to be shocked,
Yes.
tased.
Racist
All right.
scooters. Who would have thought?
All right, let's talk a
2018.
little bit about what's going on with our data. I recently read Baratunde Thurston, who's very funny. He went through Google, Facebook, and Evernote and looked at all of the default settings, and it took him 3 hours to get to the terms of service for Evernote. He had a pretty funny Medium post. But I went and I looked at my history of, and it's shocking. Like, it's very hard to delete your history on Google. You can delete like my days search. I can delete my locations for the day. I can pause location tracking, but I can't say off. They use the colloquialism pause.
Right.
So I paused it, and then I'm like, how do I delete my entire history of location? You have to hit this tiny gear wheel on the bottom of Google Maps, and then it has delete location, not on Google Maps, but on if you're on your web history of Google Maps. So they are completely making it hard. Google's doing a terrible job of putting it on the top level to delete your data. They've done a wonderful job with this page that shows you all the things they're tracking. So you can see what they're tracking. But to delete it, they've obscurified this. Have you looked at either of you looked at your history and been aghast at what they have?
Yeah, I did. There was that day where everybody on like Twitter was sharing, like, here's the page to go to see everything that Google's tracking. And so I did it. I checked it out. And it's surprising, but at the same time, maybe I'm just jaded. I just sort of assume that
Everybody knows everything.
yeah,
about
like
you.
I
That's-
at this point, I kind of figure that everything I haven't been very careful about not sharing is just shared.
I think Facebook's a little bit scarier. I did go in and try to delete all these apps that have access to all
Sure,
of my
yeah.
data, because that just seems a lot more open, and I don't trust them the way that I trust Google. Maybe I shouldn't trust either of them, but I really don't trust Facebook. And I don't understand why. I've been on Twitter for 10 years, so Twitter should know me very, very well. I feel like they should be able to create like psychographic profiles based on the aggregated data that they have.
What you tweet, what you like.
There's probably only like four types of people in the world, right? There's like Carrie's, Samantha's, Miranda's, Charlotte's. That's it. So basically, just who I am, so you'd stop tracking me.
That's how ad buyers spend, by the way.
But
they're just like, give me more of those carries.
They don't need. They don't need my specific data, right? Couldn't they just use like hey, this is who she is, sort of, and that's what I serve her.
So this is one of the key debate points between Google and Facebook. For example, Google wouldn't allow you to target by race, and Facebook decided to let you do that. That obviously was a part of what the Russians did during the election. They were like, oh, African Americans, Latinos who came out for Obama, let's get them to not come out for the child molesting, Hillary Clinton, pizza eating demon. And it's like, well, why would you even serve that up as an option? And it was like, well, because we want to make more money. So they really probably went too far. And there's a new phrase going around Silicon Valley: your data is my liability. So I've been talking to many startups who are like, we don't record that data. We don't want that data on our servers. We don't want to be responsible for a leak. And so I think you're going to see this exact counter, like, well, aren't you making enough money? How much do you need to micro-target me? And Facebook's response is, well, if you're a small business, the mom and pop businesses, we make it easier for them to reach their customers. So by not letting us track everything about you, you're killing small Main Street businesses. It's the most manipulative, dumb positioning, but it worked.
Yeah.
Like literally, Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg have been at all these on this apology tour, which, by the way, they gave out free Oculuses, so they're really
at CodeCon.
At Code, they gave everybody a free one. Like they really know they're hated.
Do you forgive them now? Then
if they gave me two, yes. One, no. This costs $200. That means the build of materials like $150. Like you should give us two.
But nobody deleted Facebook, right? Nobody deleted it.
I think
it's my mom's favorite
low
way.
Single digits. Anytime these crises happen, maybe you shake loose 1% who are on the fence and don't use it that much anyway.
You can tell because people were on Facebook talking about
deleting
how much
Facebook.
They hated it and how it was driving them crazy and they don't know what to do. But they're doing it on Facebook. They don't want to go anywhere else. Anywhere else you can go, you'd have to rebuild that whole network, and nobody wants to go through that.
Right.
It's a little too much work. That's why they're pulling the ladder up from behind them. It's like, oh, now we're gonna not let people track all this stuff. Great. Now, anybody else who wants to start a company and become rich and powerful and have all this money to invest, you can't use the trick we used, right? Like that was their trick, and now the magic trick is gone. Nobody else can use it. And all these personalization settings and stuff, it costs a lot of money. It's a lot of cognitive overhead and cost when you're designing products.
The scariest thing that came out with the Cambridge Analytica stuff that I feel like still gets overlooked is that idea that if somebody in your friend network shares their information with an app, it can share your information with that app.
Isn't that just
too?
everybody? Yeah.
Why is that allowed? That seems like that should just not be allowed at all.
Yeah.
Because that's how people were getting sucked in. Not everybody who got sucked in by Cambridge Analytica actually signed up for that stupid
personality
my
test.
Profile life revealed whatever. But like, if you know somebody who did it, that was good enough.
And we all know someone who did it.
Right? Yeah. Like everybody has like one dopey friend who doesn't pay attention and takes every quiz because they want to know, what they want to know if they're a Miranda
Carrie or Miranda or
Charlotte.
Samantha.
You have to know these things.
They had a very specific strategy, and the way they would explain it to me when I complained about it a decade ago. I don't know if you remember me complaining about Facebook a decade ago.
I remember we did a live stream of you live deleting your Facebook account.
Yes.
What, 2009?
Exactly.
2008?
Yeah, and I'm only on for an hour a day now. It's just really hard for as a marketer.
Yeah.
Like I have events, I have, all kinds of stuff we do, books, whatever. You can't not be there if the entire population is there. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is their position has always been, well, if you don't trust your friends, then why maybe they shouldn't be your friends? So like their answer, literally Zuckerberg's answer to you is, well, maybe if you don't trust your friends to share that you like this band or your profile, then you should don't be friends with them, unfriend them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, number one, I don't have to agree with everything my dopey thing my friends do.
Right.
Remember
And
this?
it shouldn't affect me and my
And
data.
they shouldn't be able to affect my data. But
Yeah.
that's his.
It's very much like if you don't have anything to hide, then why would you care
Right.
about your privacy?
Zuckerberg's morality and like sort of social knowledge and etiquette is just so low, like abysmally low. And you have to ask yourself, is this because of some condition or some personality of his? Or is it he just wants to win and he understands taking all friction out wins?
But what about the other side of it? Like, people don't really care about their privacy. They say that they do, but if they did, they wouldn't be using these apps. Would
I
they?
don't know if I buy that. I think a lot of people have been surprised to know like what when they first flipped the settings on Facebook and they showed people that other people could see their stuff, they were like, "What?" And that's why Facebook had that 20.
But Sarah's right. It
But
doesn't,
they were
it
like,
doesn't
what?
impact behavior.
But
No.
then they didn't do
then
anything
they go
about
back
it.
to being like, well, all right.
They want all the features. They want to connect with their friends.
Yeah.
They want the likes. They want all of the views. They want
Privacy
all
is
that
a
stuff.
soft problem for people because they haven't had something. They don't know the extent to which they're being tracked.
Right.
And they haven't had their privacy. They haven't had a negative impact on their life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Ashley Madison, maybe the Sony hack. Like these things cost people their careers or marriages.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what does Facebook knowing and Google knowing where you are every minute do to your life? Like, it's not going to end your marriage. It's not going to end
Not
your...
today, yeah.
Not today. Maybe it could, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, we were stopping at this...
I think there is something also to the mindset of if you think about billions of people are all having their privacy invaded at once, there is a sense of, it's false, but there is a false sense of security in that. They're like, well, I'm still anonymous because it's not just my privacy that's being invaded, it's everybody's privacy that's being invaded all at once. So how could you still can't pick me out from a crowd. I'm just one set of data in with these billions of other sets of data. Like, we know practically but people can see that it's you specifically. But I
Right.
think that adds to the mindset of like, but all of our privacy is being invaded.
Yeah,
So-
but there was you mentioned that one day where everything was public, like May 22nd to the 26th or something like that.
yeah, right.
All Facebook posts, all of them were public.
Even like private messages you thought you were just sending to
And
like
that was just a
network of
system
friends.
error.
And
It
that
was,
was-
they're saying
yeah.
it was just a bug.
A bug.
that they just found from for 4 days.
Perfect timing for them.
But again, tons of news today. People are talking about it today. Next week, if you looked at Facebook stats, would this make a dent? No.
No, I don't. I think Facebook as a company is just going to keep crushing it. They have escape velocity. You can't not be there.
Right.
The only thing that could happen is
Regulation. That's what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Because the thing is, Google and Facebook are not just optional at this point in any of our lives. We
Right.
need them.
Yeah.
And so at this point, when we need them to do the right thing.
What do you think the outcome is for Facebook?
I mean,
What will happen 10 years from now? How will we look at this moment in history?
I do think at some point we will reach they'll either have to become public utilities in some way,
So massive
we'll
regulation.
nationalize them,
I think
or
that's
we'll
where we're headed.
have to intensely regulate
And
them. It's
we
going to be one or the other.
Better
I don't-
not have a certain person in the office when the regulation happens, because then that's even scarier at that point.
Yeah. All you people are banned.
I was blocked by Trump, and so
You were?
I feel
This
like my
upsets me
rights have been
because
infringed upon.
I say mean things to Trump all the time and never been blocked.
I've been blocked by Eric Trump,
I'm not blocked.
which I think that's pretty good. I think Sarah's got us all beat.
I'm not blocked
Trump
by
himself.
a single
Trump himself,
Pre-election or post-election?
post-election.
The president.
The president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, blocked me, Sarah Cooper, on Twitter.
And you know it was him.
Yeah,
So you must have said something that shattered his frail little ego so brutally.
I did.
What was it?
Oh my gosh, it was the dumbest tweet. I said, fake news, Trump has become unfit for office. Real news, Trump was never fit for office.
That was enough to get a bet.
That was enough?
I make
I
fun
don't
of his
think
tiny hands all the time. Nothing.
Nothing. Tiny hands doesn't work.
I could see every Trump tweet still.
J.R.
Eric, Donald Jr. I made fun of them all.
J.R. Smith blocked me from the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that was like 2 years ago. He did something stupid in a game, and I was just like, my God, if you want to like lose a championship, add JR to your team. And it was like the day they lost to the Warriors,
Yeah.
and he blocked me.
I'm not blocked by any people that I hate
I'll
on
block
Twitter.
you. I'll
Thank
I'll block you down.
Yeah.
I'm
want
already
you to
blocking.
block me.
I'm already blocking.
You're blocking me? But like Mike Huckabee too. I like savage that guy all the time. Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. I can still see every dumb Mike Huckabee tweet.
All right, here we go.
But the sad thing is that he did lose in court, that he's not allowed to block people on Twitter, but now he's contesting it.
Right.
So literally our tax dollars are paying for him to defend his right to block people on Twitter.
I did see the judge who initially said he's not allowed, that it's unconstitutional. Her ruling was he doesn't have to retroactively go back and unblock the people. He just can't continue blocking.
Oh, okay.
But she also said if he appeals and loses, then he does have to go back and unblock everybody. So if he loses this appeal, you get unblocked.
Fingers crossed.
So somebody's going to go in there and individually unblock people? Like
That's what the original judge said who ruled that this is unconstitutional. He said if this stops right now, he doesn't have to go back and undo what he's done. He just can't keep blocking people.
Oh, okay.
But if he appeals and loses and there's further legal action, he could be in a position where he would have to unblock everybody.
It's like a Black Mirror episode. It's like literally our entire lives are Black Mirror season 7, 8, 9 now.
During the election, during the campaign, when he was tweeting all the time, I remember every once in a while there would be like a pundit would come out and be like, if he keeps tweeting like this, someday his tweets could actually influence public policy. Like the president could tweet something and it becomes a big deal just because he tweeted it.
I thought he was going to pardon himself on Twitter the other day. I thought he was going to be like, I hereby pardon myself.
He did. Well, he basically like, I hereby.
And I give Mueller the death sentence. All right?
But that was only
Apprentice.
That was only 2016.
You're pardoned.
And it was
You're pardoned.
You're fired.
You're fired.
Far off hypothetical. Like one day maybe this would be possible, and now we're just living in that. Like every time he tweets, it is news. Public policy is influence. He's making trade negotiations.
It's the saddest thing to turn on the news and have the top news story always be, well, let's look at the president's tweets this morning. He was beefing with the president of France and the prime minister of Canada.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's ruining
But here's the
all
thing
of
you don't
these
realize.
global alliances.
All right, okay,
Celebrities
libs.
on Twitter.
Okay, libs. When he gets the Pulitzer Prize, you're all gonna.
I love that he's getting
People want to know, what did Trump have to do with North Korea? How about everything?
Yeah.
That was my favorite quote.
Yeah.
All right. In other good news, Uber is doing a great job. This is an ad read. I'm not just talking up my. I'm not just talking up my book. But I was at the Code Conference, and I was really great to hear Dara, the new CEO, speak. And I really like what I'm seeing. He's doing a great job. And here's some great things that you've probably seen recently with the television commercials. They've created a safety center where you can learn about driver screening. They're getting that all dialed in, the community guidelines, and everything they're doing to ensure everyone can move safely. You can designate up to 5 family members and friends as trusted contacts and set reminders and share your trip details with them whenever you ride. Plus, they can see on the map when you've arrived. This is great, if you're checking in on a loved one, etc. And Uber's app has made it easier for you to verify the details of your ride, showing the driver's name, car, and license. All that stuff makes it super safe. And that's a great turnaround for my friends at Uber. Thank you for turning the company around. Obviously, I have a lot at stake, but it's the right thing to do. And it's nice to see these great steps being taken by Uber. And you can read about them going forward. Go to uber.com/moving forward. This is their campaign to let you know that they're trying to right the ship and keep everything on the straight and narrow and focusing in on that. So as a fan and the user of the service and a minor shareholder, I wish them all the luck in the world. Uber.com/moving forward. Uber.com/moving forward. Thank you to the team over there, because I got a lot riding on this. Jesus, it was a rough year. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
a lot ride sharing on this.
What is going on? MIT is creating a sociopathic AI intentionally.
They purposefully wanted to see if they could, they've been training an AI by showing it gory, violent images to see if they could turn it into a psychopath. And they say they've succeeded. And they named it Norman, like Psycho.
Fantastic.
They should have named him Chad, I think.
Which one is?
Just any Chad.
Oh, just any Chad, a generic
white
fraternity
Chad. White guy Chad, sure.
Yeah. Sarah, this seems to be in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and
only men could do something as insane as this.
Well, I think that we have to have robots that represent the worst of humanity too. Because if we want them to represent us, they can't just all be good. They have to be bad. They have to come out with an apology. They have to do everything that humans do.
Including
Like some people,
mass murder. And
like some people think like The Big Lebowski is a good movie. It's not, and so we need
boy.
people that.
Hold on. Hold on. Whoa,
I've always enjoyed The Big Lebowski.
Careful. I've never seen Lon get out of his chair, but he got halfway out of his chair when you said
I
that.
did not.
I literally planned that just to see what his reaction.
I did a Jim Halper like.
Listen, Lon has been to Lebowski Fest.
I've never been to
1 through 9.
I didn't know there was a Lebowski
There is
Fest.
a Lebowski Fest. I have not been. They bowl and they watch the movie and they drink White Russians.
But I went in and I did the Rorschach test and I tried to retrain the AI to
Did
be
you?
nicer. So
very
yeah,
good.
I put in my work to do that. But I think there's going to have to be psychopaths, robot psychopaths.
There was a movie called Virtuosity.
Yes!
Remember this with
Yes!
Russell Crowe? And this is the premise of the movie. Denzel Washington is a cop, and he hunted down and eventually caught a serial killer who was like obsessed with him. And the serial killer was put to death, but now these AI scientists have created an AI based on the mental profile of all these serial killers, including the serial killer that was hunting Denzel Washington. So once he comes into reality, Denzel Washington has to like hunt him back down.
I love it.
Kill him.
It's also the premise of Chucky, I think, right? Like
No,
the serial killer gets into the Chucky.
He's a serial killer who is a voodoo practitioner, and so when he dies, his girlfriend does a voodoo ritual that transplants his soul into a
Completely
doll.
different.
Totally
Jason.
different.
Yes,
Jason.
Sarah.
Also a great movie. Please don't disparage.
Well,
the child's
aren't there
movie.
7 Chuckies?
There's a lot of Chucky.
Yeah.
movies.
I just watched, I'm not proud, but I just watched the Netflix, direct to Netflix one.
Oh, the new Chucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guilt watched it.
They're fun. It's fine.
The reason I like it is because Jennifer Tilly's in it and we play poker together, and I just think she's hilarious.
You don't have to feel guilty
Name
about watching
dropping.
a Chucky movie.
Oh, yeah.
You do have to feel guilty about name dropping, but
Yeah.
not about watching a Chucky.
Well, no, I was talking to Jennifer about it, and
J Tills.
JT,
You're buddy J-Tills.
D-Gen. Well, no, actually, literally, her car had the license plate D-Gen, as in like degenerate. We call each other degenerates at the poker table, like we're
that's
degenerate
cute.
gamblers. So she had D-Gen. Get it, Jen?
I get it.
D-Gen.
I don't get it.
But in related news,
After the
Google
show.
has vowed not to allow its AI tech to be used for weapons. And this was kind of becoming a thing inside of Google because people were...
They had a bunch of military contracts. And a bunch
Yeah.
of people quit because they were like, I don't want to work on
Yeah.
military contracts.
But I think their hardware's in the right place. If you're going, one of the places AI could probably do a good job is mitigating collateral damage when bombing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. It's about targeting it more closely. It's about making the tools more refined.
Still killing people.
But yeah, I mean, it's
You're still making things to kill
It's a
people.
very
so
good-
I think people would have a problem with that.
This was the
Probably.
premise of Iron Man 2, wasn't it? I was like, well, this is the exact premise of Iron Man 2.
You guys,
His
we've
dad-
seen this movie, okay? We've seen it happen.
But I mean, the other problem with these sort of things is we get a lot of very different information about like smart bomb. You remember you used to
Right.
hear about smart bombs all the time, and like, oh, these smart bombs know exactly where to go, and they only take
Precision-
out
what was it,
they
precision bombing?
Right, and then when you find out the reality, it's like, they work like 70% of the time. So the rest of the time,
Yeah.
we're just dropping bombs on people.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of the same thing. It's like, well, you know, if it was working perfectly every time, maybe you could make the case.
Maybe.
But one time, your Google-equipped missile is going to go blow up a school.
But how can Google say their AI won't be used for these weapons? How can they say that?
Well, they're not going to deploy their AI to do this, but you could use, I guess, if they have open toolkits
Yeah.
and they're open source, I guess you could fork it and then use it, but they're not going to actively...
I think they're not going to try to profit off of military
Yes.
contracts.
They're just, it would be like Stark Industries is like, we're not going to make weapons anymore. They're just
Right.
not... They
And
never
that
made
does
weapons.
happen in later sequels where they find out that their technology has fallen into the wrong hands. without
Exactly.
them.
That's the future.
Welcome to This Week in Startups and Obscure Film References. My guest today. So let's talk about this Oculus Go.
Sure.
I ordered the original Oculus and a computer. I spent $3,000. I used it for about 10 hours total.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that was $300 an hour that I'll never get back. This is garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I am not usually like Mr. Early Adopter with the gadgets because, you never know, and you're spending so much money to be the first, and it's not tried yet.
But
this
you
was cheap.
actually love this. Like it, love it. Where are you at?
when it works, like if you get what you need is a very high quality 3D 360. Not that it could be 180. You need a 3D really high quality video, and if you have that, it's very immersive, and you totally get it right away. Like,
What are
I
you
get
doing
what's
on
cool.
it?
Well, I mean, it's just like whatever, like there's animated things. It's usually like just stuff to watch. There's not a
Okay.
lot of interactivity.
Okay.
There are games. So but it's only got like the controller is like one thing that you hit like 2 buttons.
So your favorite thing to do is watch movies with?
Yeah, well, you could watch movies. You
Or
could watch.
they're more like experiences or vignettes at this point.
Well, you can. At this point now, you can watch movies in it, and if you have a 3D movie, because there's like a simulated movie theater in
cool.
it. So it's a virtual environment that looks like you're.
Oh, I like that.
In front of a huge movie screen, so you could just project a movie. Like I watched Spider-Man: Homecoming in it just as a movie.
The whole movie.
Yeah.
Is there somebody in the front like making noise and
No,
like,
it's
eating
a-
popcorn and
talking
stuff?
to the
an empty
screen
theater.
like in
Well,
Brooklyn.
I had a thought like it would be because it's a totally empty theater. It would be really creepy if they just had like one guy pop up like in the front, but
Yeah.
they don't. They
Well,
just-
actually, this leads to what
But I
could
was
be a
gonna
great
say-
use case. I would like to watch movies with you and talk during them because that's
you
what
can.
you and I
It's
used
already,
to do.
This exists. We could
What?
do it. There's a thing called
All right,
Oculus Rooms.
I gotta end the show. We're gonna go watch a movie together.
There's a thing called Oculus Rooms, and you and I can, if we go to the same room, and we could put Hulu
Oh, that's
or
fun.
Netflix or a movie file on the TV.
any movie file we want.
Yeah, if you put the movie, if you have
So
an
if,
MP4.
if a friend of ours downloaded like something off of BitTorrent,
yeah, like I have Spider-Man: Homecoming on MP4. It is legitimately obtained.
how does one obtain a legitimate
Because
MP4?
at the company I work for, we work with a lot of these movies, so we buy them and then we digitize them.
Oh,
as
okay.
opposed-
So
we're
you
not,
can edit them. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not pirating them. is
Right,
what I'm
right, I
saying.
get you.
It's from a Blu-ray.
So you can rip an MP4 from a Blu-ray, then put that on there too.
You could put it in there,
Yeah.
and then you and we could all watch it together, and then you would have
Even though we're in separate places.
yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
like
cool.
you would even have an avatar that represents you, and you would have an avatar that represents you. So I
my
could
God.
turn my head and like look at you,
This
and we could
is-
talk about the show we're watching while we're
It's
watching
great for
it.
long distance relationships.
It's-
I was about to say it's going to
Yeah.
save my marriage because literally, we may have to go to couples therapy over the rules around binge watching
Right.
because, like, my wife is like, "Oh, I totally want to watch Breaking Bad," and I'm like, "Okay, let's watch it," and she's like, "I don't have time," and then I'm like sitting there with
want to get ahead. Yeah.
and this is the and then so I basically cannot watch Westworld. I can't watch any of the shows I want when I'm on the road, and I'm sitting there in a hotel and I'm like, am I really going to watch Silicon Valley without my wife? Then come home
and watch it again.
and watch it again
And pretend
and
that you don't know what
pretend that I didn't. I mean, this is where
I've been in that situation.
you have.
Yeah.
This is, I think, it's
think we all
streaming
have.
cheating. Streaming cheating is.
But this is so solved
Streaming cheating.
because even like Netflix and Hulu you can pull in. So if you're you want to catch the last 2 episodes of Handmaid's Tale,
Yeah.
super fun. Well, just casual viewing. I
I haven't watched any of that.
It's great. It's
I
super-
couldn't get through the first episode.
It's really good. It's so grim. You can't binge it.
Yeah.
My husband called it
Self-care.
lowbrow porn.
Yeah, you need to like shut
Let me
down.
ask you
every
this,
once in a while,
Sarah.
like-
If you and I watched if we watched a TV show in this and our spouses found out, this would be like a major issue.
Yeah, we'd have to go to like doubles couples thousand.
I honestly
Counts
think
go to
that-
virtual couples.
Virtual
There, it's
couples.
already in the go.
I think this is going to be a
Love it.
virtual. I think virtual reality is going to end marriages. Now that I think about it, like you're going to meet people in these spaces. It's kind of cheating.
I mean, there's also just social networks on it. So
That's
there
what I'm
are
saying.
environments that you can go and just other people hang out, and it's very like Second Life-y.
Sarah, if you talked to your ex-boyfriend over on an Oculus One and you watched a movie with them, this would be the end of your marriage.
Absolutely, especially because I don't keep in touch with any of my exes.
No, I
So,
changed my phone numbers when I left New York.
Yeah.
I was like, that phone number's burnt.
Done.
Done.
Yeah.
Too many texts coming into that one. Hey.
No, my
Hey,
but I
thinking
mean,
about
you can
you.
any contact with an ex is
What a
bad.
hassle!
I think.
What a hassle that must.
You know
be.
how that is. Lod's like, you're such a jerk.
What a horrible situation.
Let me tell you something. That is a terrorizing moment as a married person. When one of your exes calls you or like tries to reach out to you, it's like, oh, no, don't. You did the Jurassic World one. How was that?
Right. So the one more thing about movies I want to say is it works with 3D movies. So if you had a 3D Blu-ray and you put it in there because it can do 3D, so you could watch the movie and it'll look like it's coming off the screen. at you.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So it
I
mimics
want one
3D.
now.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the Jurassic World thing. So these are like the example of the experiences. It's not a movie. It's only a few minutes, and you don't have any control over it. Like you can pause it.
So it's like going on the ride at Disneyland.
It's like being in a virtual environment that looks like you're in Jurassic World, and then they'll have like raptors come and like it'll have a little story.
Will it
So
like shake your seat if there's like no.
no, it's
no, that's called D-Box, and we have it.
Right.
do?
That tech exists, but this won't do it.
You don't know about D-Box?
No.
So up and down the peninsula, a bunch of the theaters have what's called D-Box technology. And it's $5 extra, and the seats shake.
They something called 4D is the other
Yeah,
thing.
but
And they do
it-
smells too. They like pipe in
Yeah, this one
smells.
does the D-Box that's in Redwood City and other places. But what's great about it is because it's $5 extra. I went to see Han Solo. It was sold out. I couldn't get a seat anywhere, and the D-Box had like 2 of 24 seats. People were like, I'm not going to pay an extra $5 to have my seat shake. It gets kicked by the guy behind me anyway. Who cares? But in those Jurassic experiences, Lon, does it take you along like a predetermined route, or do you explore? Because like
that's
the thing I don't understand with these
right.
things.
There's the Rift and some of the others. They have those like treadmill type things, so you can actually simulate walking. This is a much more casual version.
But in terms of the storytelling, does it pull you through the environment?
Can you choose where you go?
Or on a specific route?
You're not really in that much control.
Got it.
But a lot of them, either you're moving along a track or you're just standing still and things are happening around you and you're just looking around to take sort of it all in. What I was going to say is, so those kind of experiences where it's the 3D and it's really high quality, they're amazing. There's not a lot of them. There's very few.
Right.
Much more of what's available is just 360 video that's not 3D, which I gotta be honest, it feels like a total waste of time.
It's like, oh, do you want to see the 360 version of the Dead and Company show? It's like, no, I would like the 5-degree version of that.
What's wrong with
just John Mayer
video?
and like
there's
that's
so many of those on there where it's like it's like being on top of a mountain 360, but it's not like being on top of a mountain because it's not 3D, so it doesn't feel immersive. You're just like looking at what
you get to turn your head.
Yeah,
it's
like
looking at 5 photos
around and see what a
and
mountain looks like, and it's like, okay, I could have seen that.
It's like when your uncle would take like 6 pictures in a circle and then they just lay them out on the table. Look, you can see the entire experience.
And
like,
they seem to think that this is going to be amazing and transportive, and people are going to love it. And
you don't see it. What do you want to do in there, Sarah? What do you have?
I love the movie idea. Watching
the movie idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think I love that. Yeah.
And that is more like when you're in that environment, you really feel like you're in that environment. The rest of the world is blocked out.
I like the poker. People have been
inviting
inviting me to poker, and I thought that's fun because I can play poker.
App too,
you have it?
Yep.
So we could play poker or backgammon or something, I guess.
I think it's just poker, but you're playing, and it has a microphone speaker in it, so you're playing and people can talk.
That's
to
what
you.
I want to do. I want to play.
That
I want to
sounds
play poker with my friends from New York, and virtual reality. I would totally do that. And then I want to play backgammon with my dad. On virtual reality, that would be fun. Like you don't get to see each other. We see each other. We play backgammon together and talk. And by talk, I mean we say like, rawr, rawr. That's like the equivalent of like talking. Literally, I talk more to my dad over a 4-hour backgammon session this year than I did in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Like literally. Unless we're gambling, we don't have a relationship, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like if we're gambling or eating, like those are the only 2 relationships I have with my dad. My mom, like on a walk,
I know.
we talk about feelings.
Yeah, when I talk to my dad, it's like, so you want to talk to your mom now? Like, that's exactly what happens.
How you doing? Good? Okay, good. Here's your mom.
My dad discovered texting. It's like everything he ever wanted. He wishes texting existed since like the 50s. It's like his perfect way of communicating.
Does he sign his name at the end of his text?
Sometimes he will, and he also does
he use an M dash?
He's just started to discover emojis too.
Oh boy, Dad's on the emoji game.
Sometimes you'll get a 4-word text from him, and then he'll have like eye roll guy at the end. They're like, all right, I see what you did.
What I do is and you'll appreciate this, Sarah. When I tell jokes on Twitter, I put the
you tell jokes on Twitter?
I do.
Oh.
I put the laughing hysterical guy at the end, so it's a joke. That's my joke. Is like I laugh at my own jokes. Just to prepare people.
It's better than lol. At least emojis have solved the having to end things with LOL all the time, which was
rolling
horrifying.
on the floor laughing. Yeah, all this great stuff. Okay, Sarah, 35 things you need to accomplish by the age of 35. You pointed this out, this story. What would it tell us?
Oh, I don't even remember this now. But there was an article in Money Watch about how you should have saved, I think, twice your
yearly salary
by the time you're 35.
So if you're making 60 dimes, you should have 120 in the bank.
120 in the bank by the time you're 35. And everyone was like, this is ridiculous. Here's what I have by the time I'm 35.
They clearly don't understand the cost of avocado toast and Oculus Goes.
Yeah. So everyone was sort of making fun of it. And like, by age 35, you should have a chair in your room that you keep a bunch of clothes on that are clean, but you don't want to put away.
It became like a meme of like the things that you really have by the time you're 35.
Oh, right. Yeah.
By the time you're 35, you should hate the last 3 albums of your favorite band.
Right.
Things like that.
Kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go with it.
It became a homie. As someone who's already over 35, it's very like painful to read articles like that. Like when you're 29 and you read Like by the
40,
time you're 35, you should already have, like
You're
8-year salary. You're like, well, I probably won't, but there's a chance.
There's a possibility.
But
Yeah.
when I'm 39, and you see that, you're like, well, I screwed this up.
It immediately makes you feel like a failure.
Yeah,
You
like
have already
I did
failed.
bad.
What I think millennials have gotten right. They're just like, I am not going to try to hit any notes other than my own enjoyment and my experiences. I actually think that's kind of freeing. Like people are
Also, they can't afford anything else.
It's like they
Well,
give-
okay,
they gave
so
up.
it's capitulation.
They really appreciate life. They appreciate just taking a walk to
They're like, I'm breathing.
the store. Yeah.
This is a gift.
They were like, maybe I should just be happy with what I've got.
Yeah.
Because
There's nothing out there
They're
for
very
me.
zen. Very zen.
But they would, like, I literally have had millennials who've worked for me or just at companies, and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to take a year off. I'm like, I could not, with my Irish Catholic upbringing, could I ever imagine taking more than a week off.
I tried, yeah.
I get into week 2 of vacation. I can do it now. And I'm like, okay, I have to write a book or something. I'm just like, what am I doing
I'm
here?
just trying to imagine what reaction I would have gotten if I told my parents, like after college, like I'm just going to take a year off. Like
They would have gone apeshit.
Like to do what? Like just take a year off. Yeah, but to become a lawyer. Like no, to take a year off.
Study brain surgery.
So pre-law. Like they just wouldn't even. It was not remotely in the cards. It was not a thing that would have been okay to do.
I have a serious proposal that this would balance the animosity between baby boomers for spending all of millennials' money and putting the entire country in debt. We just concede. Okay, as part of this is like a good skit that we could write up for like our variety show.
Oh, okay.
Is the negotiations between generational negotiations. So sort of like a Chappelle skit. Like we could have the boomers negotiate with the millennials. Hey, we spent all your money. You're in debt, but we're going to give you a 3-day weekend for life. We're going to move the work week to 4 days a week. So what other concessions would they give? Or could they ask for? We're going to let you move back into the guest house. Maybe it's a bad premise.
Boomers are the ones who need the days off. They're older. They need to sleep.
I think if we move to a 4-day-a-week work week, we would create more jobs.
Yeah.
And people would be happier.
Well, there's an article now about how if you're over age 42, you should really only be working 3 days a week.
How many days a week?
3.
At 42?
Yeah.
Why?
Just because that's as much output as you're going to get.
Well, you live in Lon. That's pretty much what people do in L.A. They work 3 days a week.
Honestly, almost everybody I know
Is
in LA
hustling?
who's under 50 or 55 is working like 8 gigs. Like it's hard to live in LA.
Some of these articles, I think, were written by people who don't want to work. And so you write an article saying that by age 42, you should only work 3 days.
yeah.
And then you show it to your boss. And then you're like, look at the
Yeah.
research.
I
The
use my
research
nom de
says-
plume.
But it's also
Yeah.
like those kind of stats. Like a lot of the time, they're measuring people with like full-time work, and like no, that's not the model anymore. Like
Right.
it's people who have a gig, or like if you're in production, you're working intensely for 8 months a year, and then you're off for 4. And like
Right.
those people aren't always counted as working full-time.
Well, this is interesting because it brings up this new survey that came out. The gig economy jobs aren't taking over the America's workforce, according to this study. People working in temp and contract staffing agencies and on-call workers equal 10.1% of the workforce in 2017. According to a survey by the Department of Labor, this is down from 10.7, or so modestly down. Previous surveys, in the previous survey in 2005, people who did not expect their work to last long, contingent workers, 3.8% of the workforce, down from 4.1 in 2005 and 4.9 in 1995. This seems to me that just the economy is getting better and people have more opportunity to work full time.
Well, maybe. I mean, over that long a period of time, though, it doesn't there was all that hype a few years ago about the gig economy, like everything's becoming gig economy, and not just Uber and Lyft and those kinds of companies,
Yeah.
but everything like, that's going to be the people who clean your apartment, it's a gig thing, and your dog walker, and like every job is
Those
becoming
exist,
this like
yep.
app things that you use. And I think we're seeing like, well, it's sort of, there was a little pocket of interest in that, but it's not going to take over the economy like we thought.
I didn't understand really the survey, because I think a lot of people have formed entire companies. Like Thumbtack is something that you can get someone to come and clean your patio and do all kinds of like handiwork and things like that. But people on there have companies, and they have companies, and they use Thumbtack to get work. So they're not really using it as a gig. It's their
Right,
company.
it's their formal company. They're probably doing 50
company.
hours a week week of plumbing.
Right.
or
And we had the same thing.
handyman jobs.
That's also what happened with Airbnb. We thought of it as like, well, it's people who just have an extra room, and maybe once every couple of months they'll be like, let's rent out the room. But it's actually people buy property that they specifically say is going to be an Airbnb property, and then they use it like a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I also think it's phenomenal how low the unemployment has gotten.
So low.
It's crazy. Like, it's really having an impact in San Francisco. People talk about like trickle down, like economics don't work, but it is getting extraordinarily expensive. I got quoted.
Yeah, but trickle-down still don't work.
Okay, well, let me tell you something about low unemployment and how it works. This guy, my wife was getting a gardener. Guess the dollar amount the gardener tried to bamboozle my wife into paying.
I saw this on Twitter, so I won't.
You can't say. Guess the dollar amount, because I backed it into
to do what?
To clean the garden.
To clean the garden.
Like mow the
You know,
lawn,
the
the
basic
bushes, the
landscaping
leaf
stuff.
blower.
150?
An hour. No, 90 an hour.
90 an hour.
Not 150 a time.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be total.
I always back it in to how many hours it takes, and then what happens is we're like, oh yeah, we'll just make. They wanted to get paid on a project. We'll make it look great. And then I was like, okay, how many hours is that? What will it take? He's like, oh, it's gonna take a lot. You know, I got 2 guys. It's gonna be like 5 hours. I was like, 5 hours a month, 5 hours a week. He's like, oh, like a week, but then we'll probably go to once every other week. And so I just backed into it. I was like, it's $90 an hour. Like, this is what we were paying lawyers 10 years ago. Can you imagine $90 an hour to do gardening?
I mean, it's a lot of money. It's hard work. It's not easy. I wouldn't want to do gardening for 5 hours a day.
I don't know. It's crazy here in the Valley. We are like, and I guess it's a good thing. I guess unemployment, it just does prove when unemployment gets incredibly low that wages raise.
Yeah.
You can't
sure,
hire
yeah.
people for minimum wage. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right. And everything gets more expensive. But it's more expensive to live here. So we should be paying people
Right.
more.
Well, you have to, or they can't. Yeah, they couldn't be in the Bay Area to do your gardening.
Nobody lives in the Bay Area anymore. I was just talking to somebody. They're like, this is the real story of like you know how like people talk about NIMBY YIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Yes, in my backyard. It's become like a big polarizing issue here in San Francisco. I was talking to a guy and he's like, oh yeah, no, we have a second house. I'm like, oh, you have a second home? Like what, Tahoe? And he's like, no, we have a second house like in the 2 towns over by the school we go to, the private school. I'm like, why? He's like, well, sometimes we have guests in town. There's a pool there. Sometimes the kids go to that house. I was like, there is a housing crisis. You own a house that's 5 miles or 10 miles away from
empty almost all the time.
that's empty all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you out of your mind? And then Zuckerberg bought the 5 or 6 houses around him in Palo Alto. And this person was backchatting. I mean, I don't know if this is true or not,
Yeah.
but I'll say it anyway. Those houses have been under review, like design review and they're like construction forever. So the idea was he bought them, but he was going to renovate them and then rent them to people. This person told me, oh no, he bought them
To sit there.
to sit there and not have people for security reasons, which I understand you have security reasons, but this is the most like community thing. You're a billionaire.
Mark Zuckerberg not being community minded? I'm shocked.
But he cares so much about me and my friends and our friendversaries.
I mean, did that parody not look like a Saturday Night Live thing? Like, this is the place where you all used to hang out. We're sorry. And now it's like, but then it changed and there was like bad fake news, but we're bringing it back and now it's about your friends and
Right.
baby announcements.
All you need to see is that virtual Puerto Rico tour he did. That explains everything. Did you see that?
Oh, he's like, this is
When
great.
he was showing off the Oculus and VR tech.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so he arranged
Oh my
for
God,
there to be some bus
cringeworthy.
through the devastation. I mean, this is like a week after the storm or less. This is like, it's just devastation. The country's been ripped apart.
Okay.
And there's a truck or something that's driving with a camera so that you could see, look at the devastation. And he did this thing where he put like a virtual avatar of himself. It's like he's doing it like a product demo. Like, so this is amazing. You could look
Wait,
all
a
around.
cartoon
Yeah, it's a
virtual-
little cartoon Mark Zuckerberg, and he's like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
we're here in Puerto Rico.
completely-
Look over there, look at that. And it's so bad. It's beyond parody. It's like that you would not even be in the moment doing this, looking at a screen and being like, oh my God,
look
I'm
at
a monster.
There's dead people floating by in the water. And here I am.
Like, what am I doing? Like, oh, let's stop this right now. Like, to just keep going.
Is there a
through
worse
it.
scenario you can think of?
No.
But I can
There's
see
not a
what he
worse?
was trying to do. He's
Sure.
trying to expose people to what happened there. It's
Right.
just so
With this-
crazy that it comes out the completely wrong way.
Turning it into a
We'll find him.
An ad, an
headset.
experience.
Somebody's
Yeah.
got to pull it up. It's literally him as a cartoon. There he is.
It is.
Look at him. He's like, hey, oh, whoa, this is crazy.
Like, if this doesn't tell you everything you need to know about this cat.
He's like, yeah, look,
Like,
I think there's a dog that's dead under
yeah,
there. It's
like,
what?
It's like, oh, look, you could put your name above it, and then you could look all around. Look at this.
Now, and look, they're handing out bottles of water.
He's even got his avatar smiling, like they look happy.
It's just clueless. Like,
This is dystopian.
It is. This
super
is very like we live in a dark future.
We're watching a cartoon of a flooded
high
town.
five.
that was it. The high five was the worst. And she's got her sunglasses on and everything.
This is bad.
It's so terrible, and the optics of it are so bad.
It's literally like Silicon Valley, the television show.
Yeah.
Couldn't write a worse
couldn't.
scenario.
They couldn't.
No, there's a couple of worse ones. Okay, I'm going to come up with the
Honestly,
worst one.
Like a tour.
You guys are the
a tour of Auschwitz. That's
Oh
the
my
only way to
God.
make this worse.
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
You're at Birkenau. That's
Yeah.
I don't know how to make this worse. These people are. Look at them. They're homeless. They're suffering.
It's like 100 degrees. They're
It's
like
It's too
getting-
bad because I can see that they just wanted to expose people to what's going on and they just
Yeah.
ruined it. It's just
they
it's
ruined.
really
right.
sad.
They just ruined it.
Too
Yeah.
soon would be what comes to my mind. Yeah.
Way.
Yeah. Here we are in
Well,
our CIA
too
detention camp, and
Yeah.
here's the Blackwater people we've paid to waterboard.
or
so
after
now
a
you
school
could be,
shooting or something.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah, let's go
hey,
through the Pulse nightclub,
yeah.
and you could empathize with the dead bodies there. It's like,
God.
are you?
Well, there was a video game, the school shooter game a few
Oh,
weeks
that's
ago. Did you
right.
see that? That's a whole.
That's
other
just like
story.
4chan trolling everybody. Like
No, it's like a
Right.
real game.
somebody made a game.
Somebody
school shooter.
developed a game where you play.
Weren't
as
the
a,
Russians behind that?
Yes, I think
They were
yeah.
actually behind that.
Where you play as a school shooter.
Somebody was giving me a hard time about like interacting with Milo Yiannopoulos.
Well, you should. They should, and rightfully so.
Well, I tried to explain to them, you have to understand, Milo Yiannopoulos was an entrepreneur in the tech business doing a blog company. When I was doing my blog company, he was a normal person. And then he created a character, Milo Yiannopoulos, the, like,
Yeah.
Nazi?
Provocateur.
the
Yeah.
gay Nazi?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I don't know.
Gay Nazi
Whatever,
provocateur,
the
and then-
alt-right mainstay.
But he always wanted attention, Milo.
Right.
And then he figured out, oh, I can get it by being a Russian operative
for a little while.
for a little while.
Kind of
Yeah.
wrapped up now.
All right, this has been an amazing episode. We've gotten through
So
scooters. We've gotten through Norman, the first psychopath AI. Sarah's book, How to Be Successful Without Hurting Men's Feelings. This is going to be. When is this available? Can I
October-
pre-order now?
You can pre-order now on
Where,
Amazon.
on, like, Amazon?
Yes,
Can I go on Amazon
on
pre-order this?
Amazon.
Just go ahead and you just search for Sarah Cooper or Men's Tears.
Men's tears.
Just.
Search for men's tears.
Now, is
They're
it-
everywhere.
As I do on every website.
Is it true that you shower in men's tears?
I don't. It's too salty.
Too salty.
Yeah.
Too salty? Okay. Is it
I've
hard
never
to,
seen my husband cry, by the way. So
You've never seen your husband cry?
never.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. We went
Yeah.
to see
But he's
Dance-
never
we
seen
went
me
to see
punch a
Dances
wall,
with
so.
Wolves with Lon and I, and he was curled up in a ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah. so-
Dances with Wolves is an interesting. It is a very sad movie.
It
I've
was-
never
I'm just
seen
saying,
it.
we were it was three guys. We were just devastated.
I
I've never met your
doubt it.
husband. What's going on with the new Tarantino movie?
Explain
Explain to me what this is.
They cast it more that you could keep. Every time you read about it, they've cast like 8 more people.
So it's the Infinity Wars of Tarantino Infinity Wars?
It's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We
Yes.
know that Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are starring as an actor and his stunt double, and that it is set during the Charles Manson era. But that's not
60s.
Well, yeah, but
Into
like it's
70s.
literally set. The backdrop of the story is the Manson killings,
Right.
So Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie's playing Sharon Tate.
Really?
They're gonna have
Oy.
they're gonna have an actor playing Polanski. They're gonna have an actor playing Charles Manson. But they're also just filling out the cast with like tons and tons and tons of celebrities every day. So Al Pacino, they just announced is gonna be in it.
Damian Lewis from Billions.
Damian Lewis is
Ooh,
going to
I
play.
love him.
He's going to play Steve McQueen. They're casting a guy to play Bruce Lee right now, who's apparently also going to be a character. James Marsden just got cast today.
What is
they
it
haven't
about?
said.
That period,
It's some kind of
Well-
pastiche of a bunch of different ongoing stories and characters
This-
and narratives, all set in Hollywood in the late.
I like this because I thought Tarantino's best moments were when he just did an interesting conversation or a scene where you were just like, I'm just enjoying watching this moment the overarching, narrative. I don't care where it's going. I'm just seeing like this insane Pulp Fiction moment.
This seems like
and
it's
these
going to be
characters
kind of
are
a Pulp
amazing.
Fiction deal where it's like a huge ensemble and it's going to be a bunch of different.
Like Inglourious Bastards,
Yeah,
I
Inglourious
liked. It was
Basterds,
like,
yeah.
okay, we're going to burn a bunch of Nazis. Always in my wheelhouse.
I love Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to
been
think of
my
the other
favorite.
So
one.
he's going to make up sort of
Django and Hateful Eight.
his
are the two
own
more
sort of
recent.
narrative around these real life
Right,
figures.
so that's what it sounds like. Is it's going to be a lot of real Hollywood stories and things that happen at this time in the background, and then he's telling his own story about his own fictional
I
characters.
wonder if these are
in
real
the
stories
foreground.
or fictional stories.
Some
or
of them are definitely real. Like Dakota Johnson's playing Squeaky Fromm, and like he's gonna do a Charles Manson storyline.
Yeah.
But it's going to be stuff that we
playing-
don't know if it's true,
Right.
actually.
Well, it
that we
could
don't know
also
if it
be-
Wait, does this
actually
mean
happened.
Leonardo DiCaprio's playing Charles Manson?
No, Leonardo DiCaprio is playing an original character,
Got it.
and Brad
Who's
Pitt.
playing Charles Manson?
We don't know.
I think it's
they haven't
Leo.
announced yet. No, they've said Leonardo DiCaprio. We know his character.
Fake
He's
news.
playing an actor,
news.
and then Brad Pitt is playing his stunt double.
Who would play Charles Manson?
I don't know. Well, they guess James Marsden today, so it's possible that's.
Hey, let's end with this fake
a
news thing.
good-looking guy.
Elon went on a little bit of what I think is a joke with the Pravda stuff.
Okay.
Just to contextualize it.
Sure,
I don't want
sure.
to give any inside information, but
I
I think
don't
he's
think
kind of
it's a
like
joke.
joking
don't
about
think
it. I don't think it's actually going to make a rating agency for journalists.
Well,
But
have you gone to pravda.com? Is there anything there?
No, I think he registered the domain. He tweeted that he
It's
registered.
one of
the domain.
those like, it's like a joke, but it does feel like there's reality behind it.
Yeah. So what do we think? Because one thing I brought up about the solutions to, because journalism has been on the ropes, right, with budgets being cut.
Sure.
And I was just wondering, like, there's no fact checking that occurs anymore. Like, fact checking used to be a thing where
Well, there is. It's still at the top. Washington
Like-
Post, New York Times, CNN.
most New York
they're
Times
fact-checked.
stories, I don't think have a
No, they
fact
actually
checking.
are. Yes, for sure.
No, I don't think they call the subjects and say, "Did you say this? Did you do this?"
Just the news section, of course.
Some of it. I've been in many stories where no fact checker ever called me. So as a subject, I have firsthand knowledge of when they don't.
When they did us for our wedding, announcing our wedding, they fact checked everything. It was crazy. It took weeks of fact checking before they'd print our wedding
Really?
announcement. Yeah. So
Is the wedding announcement paid? Do you pay to be in that?
no, you just say, "Hey, we got married. Do you want to feature us?" And then they
That's
research
fascinating.
you
Also,
for
if
weeks.
they had you on a recording saying it, a fact checker wouldn't need to
No,
call you
it's
to
just more
verify
just
what
like
you said.
stories. It wasn't just that. It was just like
Okay.
general stories. So I think probably
the-
some percentage are fact checked, some percentage are going too fast, and then the link baiting headlines. I think that combination for subject. I was trying to think of like what's Elon's perspective on this, and why do other people feel this way, and what would be like low hanging fruit to negotiate this. Again, back to the sort of the negotiation.
I think Elon's thing is he's used to getting glowing,
Absolutely.
genius level coverage, and then all of a sudden
You
he's
should stop
starting to
tweeting
get.
then if he wants to get better coverage.
Well, but all of a sudden now there's
No,
a thing that he's getting negative coverage. Or a few things: the union stuff, the Tesla crash, autopilot
Yes.
stuff, and all of a sudden he's starting to get a little blowback. That the shine is starting to come off a little bit, and I think maybe he's just having kind of a negative
he
reaction.
needs to grow up.
Yeah, I think maybe he's just not used to it.
Not used to it for sure. I think.
Yeah,
And
I mean, he was Tony Stark. He was the real life Tony Stark in
Yeah.
every article you read for like a decade, and that's got to have a psychological impact on
Yeah,
you.
but I think the other thing is that there's link baiting headlines. What happens is when you're a subject of these things, people are like, "Oh, I read you were at an orgy with, Steve Jurvetson." And I was
yeah.
like,
Wait, what?
"No, what? No, I
Yeah.
released a statement," and it's like, "Oh, I just read the headline," and you're like, oh.
That's all people do is read the headline.
So that's the problem is they read a link
But
baiting
that's
headline,
not that's not the media source's fault. Like, what can they do?
not write link baiting headlines.
But then no one clicks.
then you don't get the
and then you get
clicks.
the ad.
I know, but see, this is what I think the crux of it is. This is what I'm saying. Is like, whenever there's like a disagreement with people and there's two sides to the story, I always try to like put myself in both perspectives. And I was just like, what if you got called by a fact checker? I know the times like I was in the New Yorker, I was in Wired, and New Yorker. I think I had two different fact checkers call me. And then when I was in Wired, one fact checker called me. The Condé Nast magazine's super duper on fact checking. I don't know if they still are, but I understand they are for most of them, or if not all of them. When you have that happen, you actually have a chance to get an insight into what's in the story and debate it a little bit with the person. So like there was one or two things I was like, well, actually, that's not exactly correct. Here's my side of it. And they won't read you the quote. They'll just state the fact to you. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about where I lived or grew up. And I was trying to explain it to them, like, where I grew up or whatever, lived. And they were like, oh, okay, great. That makes sense. And I was like, okay, well, what's the thing? They're like, you'll see in the story. But it was so reassuring to just have that 15-minute phone call. But there's no time for that. This is how the media could really change the perspective and counter the fake news, or just living persons feeling, I read that story and I know some of this stuff is not factually correct because I'm in the industry. Mm-hmm. You ever see that when you read a story and you're in the industry and you're like, oh, that's not correct?
Sure.
This person just writing around it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, every day in stuff like inside streaming and, you know, when you're doing YouTube videos or stuff about movie news, like it's a huge issue in entertainment reporting and journalism. Like there's tons of telephone or like this was in one article and then Hollywood Reporter kind of flubs it a little and then
this actually happened to me. I wrote an article about Trump's CIA talk that he did and how a lot of the laughter was fake and he was getting people to clap.
Yeah.
And someone covered it saying I was there and I'm actually part of the CIA, and I had to write and be like, no, I was not there. You know, so it's that telephone thing.
Yeah, and I mean that stuff like you know,
years later,
film or like a relatively trustworthy site, you'll see stuff and you're like, I know that's not true, and then you can even backtrack and find.
You do the archaeology.
You can find where the error happened. Like, oh, this person was quoting this person, but it wasn't totally clear, and then they got the wrong.
Here's an idea for Inside. I was thinking about this with Inside, specifically our newsletters. I was thinking, and not to make it adversarial, but just in the path to get to the truth. If we had somebody who had a profile done on them, and we emailed them, like let's say there was a profile done of a director or something, or a politician. We said, hey, we saw the profile. It was a long profile. We're curious. What did you think of the profile overall? Did you feel it was an accurate portrayal of the situation? What was left out? Was there anything you felt was incorrect? Do you think there was anything that was biased, or the story? Did you feel the story leaned either way? Or do you feel it was balanced? And that's like a premium.
I mean, I hesitate to give one side the last word. Like that would.
Well, then you would take that and give it to the journalist.
Right.
That's a good punch up.
You would then have to go to both sides and be like, well, this is what this guy said about the article you wrote. What do you say? Because a lot of times the journalists will be like, well, that's what they told me. Here's my notes.
Yeah,
that's what they told me, and now they don't like it because they're getting, you know, like.
But it typically was the journalist got the final say, right? And I think that's what's frustrating some of the subjects is like the journalist gets the final say.
The editor gets the final say.
Right.
Ideally, it's not one or the other. It's a person who's coming in and sort of mediating and trying to find the reality.
Lon, you got any side hustles you're doing that you want to promote? I mean, everybody knows, check out inside.com. Everybody follow Lon.
Inside.com, follow me on Twitter at Lons. And, I do a bunch of stuff with Screen Junkie. So if you're not subscribed to Screen Junkies on YouTube.
Get the Screen Junkie on YouTube.
Go to Screen Junkies. We do, they're the site that does honest trailers, but we do a bunch of shows, and I pop up from time to time.
Weren't you doing some where people take different positions on a movie or something?
Yeah, we do movie fights every Thursday.
Movie fights,
you can watch live at 4. I was the fact checker this week.
Oh, really?
I'm on, so I've fought sometimes. Yeah, we just, we throw out a bunch of different movie-themed debate topics. It could be anything from, what's the best movie featuring Al Pacino? So, like, something straightforward like that. But it can also be, like I was saying yesterday we did, if you had to pick any movie character in history to be your attorney, who would you pick? And then, you could just
movie
like a debate.
Character.
Any movie
to
character
be
in
my
history
attorney.
is going to be your personal attorney. So from Untouchables, you have to pick the movie.
Yes, from Untouchables.
Right, okay.
Reese Witherspoon.
Somebody picked it. Elle Woods from Legally Blonde.
No, the right person to pick would be my cousin Vinny. Joe
I just
Pesci?
watched that the other day.
No,
he was terrible. She saved his ass in that movie.
That's true.
You'd want Mona Lisa Vita.
What about the You Can't Handle the Truth? Who is
Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. I would not want Tom Cruise.
Okay. But what about?
I mean, he gets he's good on the cross examination.
What about
one of our fighters
Denzel Washington
from Philadelphia?
Yeah,
that's a good one. One of our fighters picked Abraham Lincoln from Lincoln.
What about Insider? The Insider. Well, who was the attorney in the Insider?
It's not an attorney. It's Pacino, but he's playing the journalist, right?
The journalist.
He's the 60 Minutes guy.
Yeah, but there was an attorney who's like, in the sovereign state of, he's like a character. The sovereign state of Atlanta, you will not. It's just like really like this great attorney. Oh, Insider.
Matthew McConaughey. Time to Kill.
Time to Kill.
Okay.
All
People ask, People ask me my hero. I tell me when I was younger, me in the future.
Do you do movie fights about the fakest fighting in movies?
That's a good one. We've talked about like fights, like to do, just
I liked
all
Han
martial
Solo,
arts.
by the way.
What? You like Solo?
I liked it. I felt like it did good fan service. And I like a little fan service. I just didn't like Luke Skywalker's character in the last film, how he wasn't like a Jedi and he wasn't like a hero.
We'll fight
cynical.
about this off
He's too
camera.
cynical.
I love Last Jedi.
Here's what I want to do.
It's giving people what they want instead of
I want them to make another 3 movies that would be where Han Solo and Luke Skywalker don't die, but they're the heroes of the arc.
Oh,
and do two parallel. Yeah. They would make as much money as the other three.
Of course they would, but it's just so.
Is it all about money to you?
You just want to be
yes. No, I want the fan service stuff.
Yeah, like that's
why I like Rogue One.
These are real stories that are challenging the audience. It's better.
All right, fine.
It'd be boring.
You clearly need to start another podcast about
this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Uber, and Squarespace for sponsoring the show, and Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie. And we'll see you all next time. Bye bye.